Welcome to the Culinary Treasure Podcast. I'm Steven Shomler, your host, back here in Bozeman. Seems like I come here every year. This is my third trip out here, third year in a row. It's just a magnificent place when it comes to culinary and beer. If you want to check out all of my Bozeman-centric content, you can go to adventuresinbozeman.com, see all my travel articles, food articles, beer podcasts, and most importantly for this podcast, the Culinary Podcast. I am so excited. Fletcher Kasmer, how are you?
I'm doing great today.
Did I get your last name right?
Kasmer.
Kasmer. I keep wanting to say Kashmir. I don't know why. I'm sorry.
You're not the only one.
Okay, say it again one more time.
Kasmer.
Kasmer. Okay, so the reason I am here is I am absolutely in love with Blacksmith Italian. Steve and Corey. Steve kind of runs the restaurant, is the de facto mayor of Bozeman. What I mean by that is every time someone goes to his restaurant, they just are so happy to see him because they know him. And Corey's the amazing chef. And I got to eat food at Corey's Food Cart in Portland back in the day, which is a really fun part of how our stories came together. And when I eat there, I have the best I love bread and butter. But I actually love bad bread and butter because it's a delivery vehicle for the butter. But when I can get good bread with my butter, that's just amazing to me. And you make these things called epis that we'll talk about, but I was so blown away. I'm like, who makes this? And then they went off on me saying how amazing you guys were, how amazing On the Rise Bakery is. And I'm like, I got to tell their story.
They're too kind.
No, your stuff is... I've got some rosemary sourdough right back in my room right now, having it with turkey sandwiches. Last time I was here visiting my son, Zach, in May, that wasn't really a work trip. We ate so much of your pastries and so much of your bread. I mean, it is incredible. Oh, anyways, I celebrate you guys. I think people need to buy their stuff here. I know you're a wholesale business primarily.
Well, thank you.
But civilians can come in the morning and buy stuff.
Yeah, we're open.
I highly encourage it. Okay, questions to ask everybody in all my podcasts. Where were you born?
I was born in Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. And where'd you go to hhi school?
I went to high school here in Bozeman for a couple of years, and then I went down to Colorado Rocky Mountain School. And
Carbondale?
Yep.
And that's not too far from Rifle.
It's close to Rifle, yeah.
And I know the mascot in Bozeman is the Hawks.
Yep.
What's the mascot at Colorado Mountain School?
The Colorado Rocky Mountain School.
Okay.
The Rocky Mountain Oysters.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and the girls' soccer team, they were called the Pearls.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. And this is the boarding school you chose to go to?
I did, yeah. Yep. My sister and I both went there.
Do you get to ski at least?
Yeah, we skied during the week, twice a week, and then on the weekends as well.
Okay, that maybe makes up for the Rocky Mountain Oysters. Okay, just because Portland's near and dear to my heart. Following high school, you went to school at Lewis and Clark College.
I did, yep. I went to Lewis and Clark for all 4 years and loved it there.
Okay, and something fun happened. When you graduate from Lewis and Clark, you and 8 of your friends moved from Portland to Bozeman. And those 8 people had never been in Bozeman before.
Well, some of them maybe went to Bozeman, but yeah, it was their first time living there.
For living there, and you hornswoggled all these people to come.
Yep.
Because Bozeman is that amazing.
Because they like skiing and riding bikes and all the things that Bozeman is known for.
Okay, and that's actually in my head. Your love of skiing is where your baking journey begins, kind of the way I see the story. So you get to Bozeman, you've graduated college, and you need a job.
Yep.
So you apply all kinds of places. Oh, no, you only applied at bakeries. Why did you only apply at bakeries for a job?
Because their hours were weird. Because I could either come in early in the morning or late at night, and the rest of the day was open to go skiing.
That is brilliant. That is one of the most Bozeman stories I've ever heard.
I'm not the only one.
Oh, no, there's a lot of you that love to ski. It's funny. What do they call it? It's a POW morning. That means the powder has hit and it's no one's working. We just leave and go ski.
Yeah, the blue light goes on and everyone goes up to the mountain.
Okay, and what was your first job and that was here at On the Rise?
It was, yeah. This was the first bakery that I worked at. I was a delivery driver, so I'd come in at 5 in the morning and pack bread and go out and deliver, and I'd be done by 11 in the morning.
And then go ski. Mm-hmm. I think I could like that job. I like driving as long as I can listen to my radio and sing to myself. I'm a bad singer. Okay, and then a job opened up in production.
Yep.
And you have never baked in your life.
No, not really.
But production seemed to make sense. Hey, if you take the job, probably a little more pay, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
By the end of that first day, did you love baking?
I did. It was I liked the aspect of having my hands right in it. We had a great manager at the time, and she really conveyed her enthusiasm for baking, and I fell in love with it.
That's fantastic. Fell in love with baking. And what are the attributes? What makes her a good baker?
Consistency, showing up in the morning. If you're starting at 4 a.m, you better show up because no one else is going to be there. The strength aspect of it, it's hard work. And
because you're lifting 50-pound bags of flour?
Yep, 50 pounds. We regularly make over 1,000 pounds, 1,500 pounds of dough a day here, and all that's 50 pounds at a time.
That's a lot of flour to be lifting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you hang out here for a while, baking. You love baking. We'll get into what happens, but of course your story. So then 2012, and in there a little bit, because I think it's relevant. What was your degree from Lewis and Clark for?
I have a degree in biology from Lewis and Clark.
Oh, that's terrible. I feel bad, because that's a science thing.
Yeah.
I'm not big on those sciences, personally. I'm not that smart. I like more the story. History, yeah, history. If they're a good story, I like that. And then you undergraduate work or graduate work here in public administration.
Yep. I wanted to do something else. They had a good program here, and so I did that for a couple of years.
Okay. But then 2012, your wife, her career, you guys go off to New York.
Yep.
And you keep baking there.
Yeah.
So what are the places you baked at?
I first worked at a deli called Mile. Oh, actually, that was the second job. I first worked at Scratch Bread in Brooklyn. This great chef started at this little hole-in-the-wall bakery, and we were literally selling bread out a window onto the sidewalk. And I moved from there to Mile End Deli, which is like a Montreal-style bagel deli and sandwich shop, and I was their overnight baker. And then after that, I worked at Pan d'Avignon in their production.
For those because we're not on TV yet with the show. How do you spell Pan d'Avignon? Because I love how you say it.
So Pan d'Avignon is P-A-I-N, pain.
Yeah.
People would joke about that. It's just pan bread. D''A-V-I-G-N-O-N, Avignon.
Wow, I'm an author who can't spell to save my life. It's impressive you can pull it off. I like it even better when you say it. And is that the place that you developed, because this is relevant to your story, a love for pastries?
Yeah, we ate a lot of pastries there. They have.
So you're in management. Tell me how these pastries came to be part of your journey.
So every morning I'd get to work, and they would set aside the extra pastries that didn't go out on the delivery on a pan next to the stairs. And as you'd walk past them, you'd grab one, and you'd come downstairs and grab another.
So you're in New York for a while baking, and was that helpful to your journey as a baker?
Incredibly, especially at Pan d'Avignon. They had a very big production. I had about 50 bakers working for me. They've got quite a process. They've got a ton of people there that just really know their stuff. I learned a lot there.
And how is baking bread different than, say, making zucchini bread or banana bread?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's all pretty similar. I have an affinity towards sourdough bread, and that's where I've spent most of my time, like watching it. Quick breads like zucchini bread, for example, are pretty easy to make. There's not a lot to it. If you have a recipe and a home oven, you can make a good zucchini bread.
I know that's not possible. So you can make a good banana bread, but zucchini bread is not right. And the only thing worse than zucchini bread is chocolate zucchini bread when you don't tell people there's zucchini in it.
Don't tell my mom. She makes a good zucchini bread.
Oh, no, she thinks she does. She's delusional. Bless her heart. She needs to stick to banana bread. You can put walnuts in it. You can put pecans. You can put caramel, whatever. But no, I'm just teasing. I've had too much bad zucchini bread in my life.
Oh, yeah. No, we've got a lot of good of it right now. The zucchinis in this valley are very good.
All of the produce in this valley is amazing. Yeah. Okay, so you're in New York for a couple years. 2016, you find yourself here in Bozeman, and you buy On the Rise Bakery.
Yep, it was very exciting.
So I'm just going to skip to the fulfillment thing because you thought about public administration. You have a degree in biology from Lewis and Clark. Baking is very different than both those things.
Yeah.
I suspect that you bought the bakery because you loved baking.
Fundamentally, yes. I wanted to continue being baking, and I wanted to keep moving forward in that field. And that was the logical next step.
Okay, and now, see, that was 2016. Now it's 2020. Oh, it becomes a cuss word almost now, 2020. But it's been about 4 years.
Yep.
And are you fulfilled professionally?
Yeah. It's been a really good process for us. We've learned a lot along the way.
Okay, I love sourdough. It's my favorite kind of bread. Probably part of the reason I love your bread so much. And you make, I think the actual number is 987 different kinds of sourdough breads here. No, I mean, you make a lot. You make a ciabatta. That's a sourdough.
The ciabatta is not. That's one of the few that's not.
Okay, what was the one that sounds... Oh, focaccia. You make a sourdough focaccia. You make a bread you call sourdough. It's actually sourdough. Mm-hmm. You make a rosemary sourdough.
Yep.
I have that at, back in the room right now. You make a Lavon sourdough. You make a basil feta sourdough. You make a Kalamata Ave sourdough. You make a Norwegian farm sourdough. And I could go on.
Yeah. and actually, the original number, the variety that we offered was even more. We've tried to focus.
Well, you haven't done a very good job.
Yeah.
All of the bread is amazing, but you make it, like I said, 987 different sourdoughs. Yeah. So the way you handle your starter, you have... you basically have a mother that's a whole wheat starter, and then you have two starters that come out of that, right? Mm-hmm. And you call them your artisan starter.
Yep.
And then you have your
liquid Lavon.
Liquid Lavon, and those are two different starters. And I know there's probably bakers lists that want to know all about your starter and questions I don't even know how to ask.
Sure.
Because starters and sourdough is just like this amazing. Did your biology degree actually help you with that? Because that's a lot of chemistry, isn't there?
Yeah, you should have seen my chemistry grades.
No. Because sourdough, I mean, I like to think of it as kind of magic, but there's actual science behind it.
There's a ton of science, and there's a lot of people out there that have a really strong grasp of it. That part of the industry, I think, is getting a lot better. Historically, bakers haven't really known a lot about what they were doing. They learned from tradition.
So you do it this way, and this is the outcome.
That's right.
Got it. Like in the old days, they thought the monks that brewed beer, so they didn't understand yeast, just the kind of magic happens.
Right. I think my understanding of baking for the first 5 years or so of doing it was very minimal.
And that's changed over time.
Yes.
Okay, you bakers that are listening to this podcast because you want nerdy baker stuff, I'm not that guy, but I'm going to tell me if ever I'm going to simplify for the average layperson your two-step sourdough process. Mm-hmm. So maybe I have this right. So you start with your mother sourdough. You start it, and it does some cool stuff for about 24 hours.
Yep.
And then you pull off your liquid Lavon starter.
Yep.
And that does some cool stuff for about 15 hours.
Yep.
So we're now roughly 2 days into the process.
Yep.
And then you take the starter and that secondary starter, and you add some flour and some salt and water.
Yep.
You mix it together in a big, huge bulk amount.
Yeah.
And that hangs out for roughly, how long is that for about, how long?
3 hours of bulk fermentation.
Okay. And then you chop it up in little pieces.
Yep.
And how long does those little pieces then hang out?
They rest for maybe 20 minutes, but that part is fast. And then it gets shaped into its final shape.
Okay. And does it hang out more, or does it go into the oven?
No, from there it goes back into the retarder and another 15 to 20 hours.
Okay. That's what that, 15 to 20. So you got roughly 24 hours for the starter, starter, 15 hours for the second starter. The next process is 3 hours, and then another 24 hours.
Not quite, but yeah.
And then you bake it for 30 to 40 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, that's a process.
And your process includes this two-step sourdough process. A lot of places just do a one-step.
Yep.
So why? At first, the bread's amazing. I don't care how you make it. It is, and there's a few things I know well. I know bread and butter very, very well. That's really. But why do you have that two-step process?
For a variety of reasons. One, we really like the flavor of the bread that we're producing, and that is largely it's because of the temperature and the time and the fermentation that goes into it, and you can't shortcut that. Like, as much as we sometimes want to, and we'll have wholesale customers approach us and be like, we just need it a little bit faster this time, and there's you just can't do it. And we also like sleeping at night, and by doing these long cold fermentations, and where the bread basically goes to bed overnight, so can we. And it's a big advantage.
Because some places, you come in roughly 4 a.m. here. Mm-hmm. Some bakeries, people arrive at 1 a.m.
Yep.
Some places, they arrive at 9 p.m.
Yeah, they work all night, and it's a good way to get a heart attack.
So you get an amazing end product. I mean, and for you guys, at least, it's a better quality of life.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Okay, speaking of amazing breads, those stinking eppies, those little amazing breads that they have at Grand Central, that's why I'm here, because those are so good. I had those last night, dinner. I had dinner in my room because I'm going to be going out to eat a lot, and I had dinner in my room. And I probably ate more of those than I did the pasta I had because they are so ridiculously good.
Yeah.
Those are sourdough as well?
They are. We do all sourdough baguette, and from the baguette, we'll take it, and it's the final step. So right before the bread goes into the oven, we cut it up with scissors in such a way that it looks like a little wheat stalk.
Have you heard of Quad City pizza?
No.
It's a style of pizza in the Quad Cities of Illinois where they literally cut it in strips with scissors, and you eat the strips. So you cut this. So why is that so amazingly good? Those eppies.
I think the reason you probably like it is because it's pretty crusty.
I do love crusty.
Yeah. It's just very minimal amount of crumb to crust ratio.
So when you say crumbs, you don't mean the mess that I have when I eat a muffin.
No, I mean the inside of the bread.
So crumb in the baking world is, for bread, it's the guts of the bread, the inside.
Exactly.
Not the little things when I eat a poppy seed muffin that I make a horrible mess with.
Right.
Okay, and you have, with the eppies, you have a really good crust to crumb ratio.
Yes, if you like it crusty.
Oh, I do. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's almost like, if you've seen those weird U-shaped brownie trays, so that it's all crust on the brownies. They're shaped like a U, and you get a whole bunch of crust on there.
That sounds like a lot of work.
No, you just pour it and bake it. But yeah, I do. It's phenomenal. Those things are absolutely amazing. I'm so glad. People just need to come here and buy them out every day. I don't know why they wouldn't.
We sell those out pretty well every day.
Good. They should. Okay, so and most of your business is actually wholesale.
Yep, we are primarily a wholesale business. We were forced to move from our original location because we couldn't renew the lease. And at that point, the business sort of pivoted to be primarily wholesale because we didn't have the location for a retail bakery any longer.
But people can come here and buy.
They can. We sort of call it our factory outlet. It's rough around the edges. It is not exactly what you would expect from like a retail bakery.
But the bread's better. I dare you to show me any better bread in the Gallatin Valley or all of Montana. You won't.
I like Wild Crumb's bread.
Well, I love their stuff they make. Their pastry's good. I don't know if I've had their bread, but I do love Wild Crumb. Okay, I'll give you that. But your stuff is equal to on par with them, if not a little better. Not that I don't love Wild Crumb stuff. I'm telling you. Although, have you had the bee sting from Daily Coffee?
I like Daily Coffee a lot.
Have you had their bee sting pastry thing?
I get the Daily Donut when I go there.
Oh, you got to get the bee sting. It is some good
I'll
stuff.
have to make it back. Since Corona, I can't find
cheese and it's ridiculous. Okay, so you have like more than 40 wholesale accounts throughout Southwest Montana, and you cover your own stuff here in the Gallatin Valley in the Bozeman area.
Yep, we distribute ourselves.
And then you have a distributor for other cities. Like, what are some of the other cities that are Southwest Montana for those who don't know Montana geography?
Well, the big one that we go to is Big Sky, and that's just 40 miles down the road here from us. And it's a big resort, and they bring a lot of people in, and there's a lot of good restaurants up there, which is a bit of an anomaly in Montana.
Yep. Well, other than Bozeman, which has some of the best restaurants in the state.
It's taken a long time.
You've seen it. So you got Big Sky, you have Butte, Gardner, West Yellowstone.
Yep, and even into Yellowstone National Park.
Okay, and so those are some of the other places that you. So I think more, and I think if they're a restaurant and they don't buy bread from you, they're probably dumb. Really, I just think they should. I'm sorry, I'm just a fan. What can I say?
Or cheap.
But you can taste the difference. You really, really can. Good bread. I'm sorry, but you can.
I agree.
Okay, so you loved pastries. You fell in love with pastries at Pain d'Avignon?
Pain d'Avignon.
I was close.
Yeah.
I'm close. I'm probably never going to get more than close. And then November 2016, you hired this guy, Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we had a really good opportunity to bring in a real pastry chef. There are a lot of people in this industry that call themselves pastry chefs or whatever, but like you don't run into people that like can actually perform very often.
So now, did he apply for a job to be a pastry chef, or he just wanted a job?
He applied for a bread baking job that was open at the time.
And was he experienced?
He was. He had he had worked at Dean and DeLuca and a bunch of other cool places.
So he's an experienced bakery chef or pastry chef and a bread baker.
And a bread baker.
He was experienced in both.
Yes.
And have you hired experienced people before?
We have definitely hired people that said they were experienced.
And does it go, is it usually better to hire for you in your journey, experienced bread bakers or non-experienced bread bakers?
It has unfortunately worked out it's better to train people.
Because you don't have to untrain them and then train them.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know. I think that the good people in this industry, if they find a good gig, they tend to stick to it. And you don't find many people... I mean, unless they're just like moving, that was Ryan's case. They liked Bozeman. They moved to Bozeman and he needed to find a new place to work.
So even though he had experience, you hired him.
Yep.
And he baked bread for you for about 2 years.
Yep.
And then 2018, you guys added these amazing pastries.
Yeah. So we expanded into this whole pastry program, and I basically gave him the reins of it so he could kind of choose what he wanted to do.
And the crazy thing, this is 2020. Sometime in 2021, you're going to spin him off and he's going to have his own business.
Yep. Yeah.
And you're supportive and okay with this.
Oh yeah. We're really excited.
I celebrate that. I think that is amazing. A lot of people do, and we did a podcast with him and covered his story. So people want to do that. And then when I come back next year, I'll have to do an update and see how he's doing.
Yeah.
But some things people don't realize, amazing things that I've things I knew, but I hadn't, you guys reminded me of it. So you bought this place in 2016 and then you had to do a lot of work to add stuff.
Yeah.
You had to put in a freezer. You had to put in walls. The things that you slide the pans of bread into, slide them. That's called a deck. You had to buy more decks.
We bought a deck oven.
You bought an oven.
Yeah.
And you got ovens. I even looked at ovens for my kitchen. The oven you got was $70,000. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. After installation, it was
wow.
It was like buying a Mercedes.
Yeah. Except something better comes out of it. But I mean, not the thing it's Mercedes, but your bread, man. $70,000 for an oven. And then you had to buy over this time, you've been buying lots and lots of equipment, building out this space.
We did. Yeah. We've spent, a lot of money.
I believe it, a lot of money. And now you've reached the point where you've got what you need.
Yep. We're in maintenance mode, hopefully, for our equipment.
Oh, that's good. Because mixers ain't cheap.
No, they're really, we've looked at recently, we wanted a tipping mixer so that we wouldn't have to lift the dough out of the mixer by hand. And they're like $60,000.
Okay, wait a couple years, maybe start a GoFundMe account or something.
People do that successfully.
Oh, I know. I like a Kickstarter better, I think, than GoFundMe. My fellow food owners do some Kickstarter accounts to go brick and mortar at the restaurants back home in Portland. But
the oven is always the biggest thing it's the biggest hurdle for a small bakery to get started with. Because even if you're small and you need the right type of oven, and they all come from Europe and they're all expensive, even if you buy a small one. And so getting a Kickstarter to get your oven at least is pretty common now.
So tell me what you personally love about baking bread, because baking bread's different than other kinds of baking. What do you love about baking bread?
I really like the process. I like how you have to be very intentional about the whole process. And there's like a natural rhythm to it. I like working my hands in the dough itself. I don't like batter. I don't want to deal with muffin batter, but I really like bread dough. And I know that doesn't, it's like a small distinction, but
it's a different texture. It's a different tactile experience.
Yeah, it is. And I frequently will tell like new hires, that in order to be successful, they're going to have to try and find their like inner zen while they're shaping bread, because you can get really bored if you're just shaping baguettes for hours and hours. If you have 1,000 baguettes to make, it takes a long time. And so you need to be able to like find some sort of inner calm while you're doing that.
Yeah. My wife, she cooks to unwind. And one of her favorite things to make is risotto, because you have to stir that thing for 20 minutes and you can't stop. Mm-hmm. And for her, she kind of just zones out and it's almost meditative making that.
Chopping wood.
Yeah, I like that. Well, it has been a delight to have you on the podcast. Like I said, I'm a huge fan. I love what you guys do. I just wish you all the success in the world. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming out to us.
You got it. And I encourage people, you come to Bozeman, you got to come here and get some amazing bread. If you are located anywhere near Bozeman and you're a business and you don't buy from them, I just think you're an idiot. The bread is incredible. And man, those eppies, that is an incredible experience.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Cheers.